Okay, our cut of our caliper piston is finished, and that is now reduced to the size to get our bearing halves over. And I also wound up cutting a hole in the middle, and I'm going to use that to help secure it onto the vise. So this whole assembly, when we put all our pieces on top, will stay in place. We're going to install this collar just as we would a tire with using tire irons. So I move that rubber ring around the retainer, install our pieces of metal rod, slip that down over the bearing halves, and we've got the collar installed. We have all 4 bearing carriers assembled and riveted, and the rubber rings installed around them. It's time to assemble the torque tube. Okay, along with our bearings and our bearing assemblies, we have all the other components we may need to start putting the assembly together. We've got the drive shaft, which the bearings sit around, also the torque tube, and then we have a means of pushing those bearings on that drive shaft down inside the tube. And we also have a device that we put together to hold the drive shaft in place while we start pushing the bearings down the tube. So we'll probably start with bearing number 4 on the endmost part of the drive shaft. Okay, this is bearing number 4 installed on the drive shaft, and we're going to set this in the tube, the nose piece of the drive shaft first, and then we'll press in bearing number 4 into the tube. Okay, now we're sliding the drive shaft down the torque tube, and we're going to position bearing number 4. Now we have to have a means to support the drive shaft in the proper position, so we're going to temporarily hold it in place with this wooden block. Let's see, okay. All right, now we want to get bearing number 4 in position. And what we've done is we've marked this driving tube at the proper distance to get the bearing in proper place. I'll slide that over. All right, number 4 is in correct position. And now we are going to use this means to hold the drive shaft in correct position while we install from the opposite end. And let's see. We go this way. And this will hold our drive shaft from moving back when we start to drive the other bearings down the tube. And that one for reaching over top is a little bit difficult. Okay, one major importance here is holding the drive shaft in correct position, so we'll have access to the cross bolt on the coupler when the transmission is actually coupled to the drive shaft. And again, we're using our bearing puller or screw adjustment to hold that in correct position, so we know we'll have our drive shaft where we need it to be. now I'm going to remove this front piece here that's holding our drive shaft concentric with the tube. We're going to get ready to push one of these bearings down the drive shaft. Just want to make sure that we have some of that sill glide on all that sleeve. Okay, now ready for the last bearing. This is number 1 from front to back, but our last bearing. And there we are. Our drive shaft depth is correct. We are right up against the end. Let's remove our backstop here. Just check our bearings. Nice smooth operation. Okay, thanks for following along with us on our torque tube rebuild. Part 1, we rebuilt the bearing carriers with new bearings and Delrin sleeves. We put those together and installed them in our tube in this segment. Now our torque tube is ready for installation into a vehicle. Well, thanks for hanging out with us, and be sure to stop by again. Check us out on the web also. See you next time.